more people know about this information, this knowledge, this wisdom, the more we will see betterness, goodness in the world, because people are living in their path, in their dharma, in their purpose.
Welcome back to Her Daily Rhythm. I'm so excited to present to you this episode. If you have not been here before, my name is Natalie Smythe. I'm your host, a naturopath, nutritionist, and meditation teacher on this journey with FemVed, our partner, who is dedicated to supporting women's health from menstruation to menopause and democratizing women's health in the wellness space. Now, in this episode, it is almost the last episode of the year, and I have the pleasure to interview and speak with Zia Kusumawardini. Zia is a Vedic astrologer and spiritual guide known for her ability to decode cosmic patterns and empower individuals to navigate their lives with clarity. Combining ancient Vedic wisdom with practical insight, she really does help her clients uncover their purpose, overcome challenges, embrace opportunities with confidence. And so she does actually come from a background of international law for you skeptics out there. And she does integrate analytical rigor with her spiritual depth as well, offering a really unique, grounded approach to her astrology. Now, this episode, as you can tell, we really connect. We have so much fun because I certainly have an interest in astrology, and it's really helped my journey, and it does when I'm able to see the larger picture with clients. And we really delve into the mathematics of it and how connected it is to astronomy, particularly at this time when there is so much change going on in the world, particularly as it is the end of 2024. So we look into the topics and themes that will shape our lives in 2025. And really, the most important tool of all is coming back to yourself. There's all of these elements that can take and grasp our attention, but it really is about how can you anchor yourself with these tools. So you're in for a treat. Please, as always, like, share, comment, and tell me what you would like to hear more of. Enjoy the show, and I'll see you next week. Welcome, Zia. I am so honored to have you with us at Her Daily Rhythm. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
So I think we have lots to unpack today, and I'm so excited because we actually have a global audience. We have people listening in from India, Australia, America, and the UK. And I think Indonesia, Bali is a very hot place for people to live in the wellness. And you've actually grown up there, so and ingratiated in the spirituality and the soul of the medicine and the land. So I wondered if we could first start by speaking about your life growing up in Indonesia, where your father was a shaman and your mother also was deeply ingratiated in the community.
Oh, I mean, that's a long topic.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, probably the long one. But of course, I'm gonna summarize it. First of all, again, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And then it is definitely an honor to share more of this goodness, juiciness of holistic health and wellness, not just about healing the body, but also the mind and the spirit. That's where I started first because of my family background. And that is true understanding healing the spirit. And I think for a little child, it's something hard to grasp, right? But if it's not there, sometimes it's hard to really understand that. Growing up, I was very skeptical about anything that doesn't make sense to my logic, even though I grew up with a dad like that, and he healed a lot of interesting cases where people just came home to our home, and then my dad will help them and hear the interesting noises during the healing process, because that's what I guess involves in healing in the spirit level. But my love actually for health and wellness did not develop until I was in my 20s, when I start seeking for treatment for my own health. Like you mentioned earlier, I have several health imbalances, but the one that really, in a way, quote unquote, bothered me since I was young until today, in a way, also it's not as bad. Of course, nothing bad at all right now, but it is related with scoliosis. So if for anyone who knows about scoliosis, basically you cannot sit up straight. And in some severe cases, you cannot even sit because there's so much pain. So at that time, I knew that I had scoliosis. have had, not as bad as I say had in my mind, straight for more than 10 minutes. And then I realized that, oh, there's something wrong with my back. And then when I checked, it was already 35 degrees. The doctor said after you reach 40 degrees, you actually need to have surgery. Every year, it will increase 1 degree. So basically, in 5 years, I will need to get the surgery. That's basically how he said it. But like I said, it's expensive, but also it's very risky. And I don't know if that's the kind of procedure that I want to take because it's something that is permanent, right? And then that's how, the whole journey started of like, if there is anything that I can do except surgery, like I want to try that. So that's one of the reason in a way that become the trigger, become the catalyst of my healing is because of that. It's because of the interest to learn my own health imbalance. That's when I start living in Bali. At that time, Bali wasn't as busy and as popular as now. That's how I learned yoga, how I started to learn about Ayurveda. So initially was learning to heal my physical imbalance, which is the scoliosis. But then after I learned about this holistic medicine of Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, I realized, oh my God, it's not just limited to the physical imbalance. Even scoliosis that seems so structural, there's actually a deeper core reason, like the emotional imbalance, the mental imbalance. And it's not coincidence that I had my scoliosis a year after my mother passed away. There's some correlation with that, but at that time, I didn't know that. And then I was like, oh my God, everything that my dad has been talking all these years, it makes sense now. So it's interesting. It feels like a full circle moment. Like going back to my roots to understand, like, oh my God, I've known this for so long. My ancestors have done it, but unfortunately in Indonesia, it's not as preserved compared to, let's say, Ayurveda or Vedic Astrology. It's so well preserved for thousands of years, but in Indonesia, we have a lot of similarities with Ayurveda, with Vedic Astrology, let's say, but it's still something passed down through word of mouth to what your grandma told you. So I just love it. In a way, it's a blessing in a disguise to have the health imbalances that I have, because not only it helped me to understand myself, but now I can help other people as well. But also I become more appreciative of the knowledge, the culture that has passed on through me to my ancestors. So that's a little answer for that.
It's really interesting. I feel like the best practitioners, or the way that we can see and create space for people, is by having that catalyst and really understanding, because when you have that catalyst, or when you have that experience for yourself, you know that there's just not one thing that fixes it. And as you rightly say, it's not just the structural physical aspect that's going to heal the scoliosis, it's the mind, body, soul connection there as well. And so when you started doing your body practices and the yoga and massage and so forth, how much better did it get you? Because you say you had scoliosis. So yeah, what happens with that? So will you always have it and it's about managing it now, or how does that work?
Great question, because that's so interesting, because in my mind, there's like, I still have it, but no, I had it because there's no more pain. Like in the past, I would not be able to sit more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depends the circumstances, of course, because there will like this pulsating pain around my back. But now the pain is no longer there, because I realized that there is that deeper root cause that in the past, or just in like the typical structural treatment, allopathic medicine, not that is wrong. It's just like that's good for that level. Unfortunately, it doesn't address the deeper cause. So that's why the pain, like no matter how much, let's say, treatments, body work that I did, but until I treat the root cause of the imbalance that is related to emotional pain, about losing my mother and the other dynamic, let's say, in my life and in my family at that time, that's how I feel like it's connected, and it helps me now to really improve the scoliosis condition. But when it comes to, like, let's say, the degree, I haven't actually checked the like X-ray again, but I can send you photos from like back in 2009 when I first had the X-ray photo to now, and the back is it looks like, for those who doesn't like really see how it was, They thought it's like there's no scholars because it looks very straight. But I'm actually curious myself. I want to take the X-ray next time when I have the chance because I want to see what's going on behind the scene. But yeah, from the outside, it actually looks like just straight. It's incredible. It's mind blowing.
Wow. I mean, I don't want to keep speaking about this, but it's fascinating to me because I wonder, for the people that decide to go down the surgery route with scoliosis versus what you did, what is the rate of change in person that went down with surgery versus your outcome?
The surgery will be faster in a way, although what I learned, and of course, is the post-surgery healing that needs to happen. But I feel like one of the reason why I prefer the non-surgery aspect is because I want to address the root cause. If we don't address the root cause, even though let's say the spine is straighter, but the root cause is there. Let's say the root cause comes from grief, comes from like you tend to like hold emotion and then it stores around your back, around your spine. The problem is still there. So even though you already had the surgery, if the root cause is still there, it will create another type of imbalance. And that's something that I personally, after I learned about holistic medicines, I'm like, yep, I don't want anything to come up again. So I rather spend more time compared to like get a fast, instant surgery, so that the root cause doesn't come up again. Just like same with other type of imbalance. Again, it's not saying one is better on the other. It's just both system, right, is used for a different purpose. Let's say you have cough problem, and then if you just drink like consume medicine, but you don't find the root cause of it, whether let's say, oh, maybe it's an allergy. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe there is a mold. We don't know. We don't solve the problem. Then it will keep coming back. And then who knows, the medicine that we've been taking, there's some side effect as well. And then we need to deal with both. So that's why something that I always educate, and I'm sure this is something that you do as well with your client, is that sure, there is an instant way, but what if the instant way actually just like an easy road that leads to the hard road? Why don't we take the hard road now? And then things will get easier after.
That's it. And that root cause medicine is going really deep to go straight to the point, which involves not just physical, it's the emotional, it's the mental, rather than putting a Band-Aid on things. Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners hopefully understand we want to get to the root, and it could be the emotional trigger. And in your case, it was your mother passing on. So, and it was sitting with you most of your life, and that was the catalyst, but there was a slowly build up, wasn't there? And that was the thing that sent me down. So there's always a pattern, and there's a rhythm for it. I wanted to go back to, I love how you state that Ayurveda is the science that can support people in becoming their healthiest, and Vedic astrology is the light can guide people to live with their purpose. And these are the two modalities that you really have transformed your life and others. So I wonder if you could maybe expand on that and tell me about what you're seeing with your clients lately. I suppose that's a very big question.
I love it. Send me the big question.
You got 5 minutes there.
Okay, so 5 minutes. Okay, let's do this. So, I'm joking. So, an easy way to explain it is like, imagine there are 2 cars. Let's say there's one Ferrari and the other one is four-wheel drive. Which one that you like better, Natalie? I'm curious. What do you think? Which one is better?
Full-wheel drive from me. I like going off
full-wheel drive. That's exactly what I thought. I imagine you'll be the type of person so like, let me give me my freedom and explore the world, right?
Yeah, you read me.
But the truth is not like one is better than the other, right? It's just both is built for a different purpose. Let's say if you have a family, probably you want an SUV, but probably if you're young, you want to, let's say the freedom, take the four-wheel drive. But if you want something flashy and fast, get the Ferrari, right? That's the same with our life. Like everyone is born with specific type of body, personalities, way of thinking, like everything is so unique. Literally, there's no one exactly the same. Even twins, if you see their birth chart, there's something is going to be very different about them. And so that's how I love the combination of this Vedic science, particularly Ayurveda and Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is basically the GPS system in each car. No matter what your car is, there is a GPS system, right? That will guide you to go towards your destination. What's the destination? Everyone is different, right? One is to explore the unknown, like you, Natalie. And one is like, I'm gonna climb the corporate ladder, right? Like everyone is so different. And to get to that destination, first you need a GPS so that you don't get lost. And of course, you need a proper functioning vehicle. One is, let's say, in the shape of four-wheel drive, so one in the shape of Ferrari. And because everyone vehicle system is very different, we need a different maintenance. We need unique sets of diet, like the fuel, and the fuel will be different, right? And that's where Ayurveda comes. So the Vedic astrology is that GPS system in our being. And then the Ayurveda is, imagine like the manual, the guidebook to maintain that body that is so unique between one and the other. And that's what I love between the combination of the two. One is the giving the light, giving the direction. One is this how to maintain it. Even if we buy a car, it comes with a manual. We have this body and it's a very important vehicle and we don't have the manual. Like, how confusing that would be. Thankfully, there is a manual. Unfortunately, not many people know yet. Although now there will be more people thanks to your podcast as one of the catalysts for that. And so I think the more people know about this information, this knowledge, this wisdom, the more we will see betterness, goodness in the world because people are living in their path, in their dharma, in their purpose.
And I just want to highlight it because there is a lot of skepticism between astrology and so forth. It's not mathematical or rooted in science. I know from your experience, you were very logical. You were a lawyer, or still are a lawyer. You were very skeptical. So I wonder if you could speak about that point because you probably received the best clients in that aspect.
Yeah, that is, I remember when I first told you this story, right? When I went on a date with my ex-husband, he's a Vedic astrologer. And then on the first date is a typical Ubudian date. They will ask you your birth chart. But I guess everywhere nowadays. I'm sure you do that too.
Yep. Subtly.
And then I'm like, I don't believe in this thing. But I give him my birth date anyway. And then one of the things that he said was, there's a lot of things that he said was true. And one of it is that he said, I have a talent to become an astrologer. And I'm like, this is BS. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. If it doesn't make sense to my logic, I'm not going to buy into it. But I think the reason why for so long I was so skeptical, not only with astrology, but with like non-allopathic medicine, is that there's so many misinformation, unfortunately. And then thanks to the media now, it's become more accessible. And then thankfully now with the science and that we have now, there's a lot of research that actually backing up this ancient medicine and ancient wisdom. For example, when it comes to astrology, I think, as I'm sure you are too, like we are more familiar with Western astrology, and Western astrology is unfortunately astronomically incorrect. At the time we air it now, people talk about Pluto in Aquarius. That's from the Western and tropical calculation. But astronomically, Pluto is not in Aquarius. Pluto is actually in Capricorn. So that's why there is this mismatch, right, between this wisdom, this information, definition, knowledge, like astrology, with science, because scientifically, no, Pluto is not in Aquarius. That's why another reason why I love Vedic astrology, because it's actually aligned with the astronomy, including the planets around it. That's why it actually is backed up by science compared to tropical astrology that is not astronomically aligned. If you or anyone wants to know more about it's logical, it's like scientifically backed, there is a lot of calculation with a Western study in Vedic astrology. But one of the most important one is that in Vedic astrology, we use sidereal astrology system, which basically the position of the planet that is used in Vedic astrology is aligned with astronomy. So that's what I love.
So it's really dovetailing with it directly what's happening in the sky at any one moment. And so first two steps, I just want to go back to in your natal chart, for example, does it highlight if you are going to experience certain health condition?
Yes.
It can go that deep, specifically if they're quite genetic or it's something that you will live with, if it's musculoskeletal or bronchial or something like this.
So even that, like, how come the planet can explain about health? But there is some, and it's under a branch called medical astrology. But one of the way to assess it, for example, like each planet has its own elements, which means they also have their own dosha. I'm sure you're familiar with your dosha, right? The Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So the planet actually have their own dosha too. How crazy is that? So without even meeting the person, this is why I actually do more medical astrology now compared to the typical, like, I just look into their chart because sometimes I notice when I ask a lot of questions, sometimes one of the people doesn't know the answer themselves, they're not aware of their body, or there are clients that they lie or they don't want to share the information. That's why, like, I rather just look at the chart. Chart never lies as long as the birth day and birth time is right. Because, so for example, not only each planet has its own dosha, which means it can indicate that person's body constitution, also health imbalance tendency, but also when they will have it. And this is something that Ayurveda doesn't, I'm not able, like, if you just see it from Ayurveda itself. But with understanding the Vedic astrology aspect, you can predict whether certain diseases will come at the certain time, just in the short period of time, or whether this disease actually something that is more, in a way, I call it karmically heavy. For example, for me with the scoliosis. So in the birth chart, first, not only the planet represents certain dosha, but also certain organs. And if you're aware or know about the houses, the 12 houses, each house also represent different parts of the body. So for example, Saturn is related to bones. Okay. So when there is an imbalance or a challenging aspect in Saturn in the birth chart, then there is most likely that person will experience a bone type of imbalance, a bone disease. And that, of course, depends on the other planetary placement and the houses that can indicate the type of imbalance or disease even more accurate. So in my case, my Saturn is a little bit more challenged. I remember my former husband, he said, do you have like bone problem? I'm like, bone problem? And I'm like, no, I don't have bone problem. And I'm like, where is scoliosis is a bone problem? And then another thing, for example, the sixth house is a house of health and disease in general, but it's also specifically about our digestions when it comes to organs. So I often see people when they have heavy planets or a lot of challenging karmic planet in the sixth house, most likely to have a tendency with their digestive issue. Or when it comes to transit, for example, in my case, a few months ago, Mars is the planet of fire, right? The element is fire. The dosha of Mars is Pitta. I have Mars transiting my first house, the house of the body, and second house, the house of the face. And what happened at that time was I had really bad skin breakout, just like everywhere. My back was full of acne, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, I already reduced all the like Pitta acne causing things like deep fried chili, all the heat related diet. But why is it coming back? And I realized, oh my God, Mars influencing, Mars creating the fire. And so if I consume excess heat while there is already heat planetary wise, then it will get inflamed easily. So that's why even in the past, traditionally, even until today, there are many Ayurvedic practitioners who is also a Vedic astrologer so that they can have a more broad, a more holistic perspective about this person's health imbalance tendency and predict when things might go worse, or like things might get better, including actually accidents. So there was one time in the past, my former husband, he was teaching in Thailand, and then we know like, oh, there's again Mars transiting in his first house. And then Mars, not only it create inflammation, but it also can create accidents. So at that time, we thought he's gonna get accidents. So this is crazy story. So at that time, we thought he's gonna get accident because it's Mars in the first house, and that's happened in the past. And then so we bought a travel insurance specifically for that day with a better like coverage. Funny thing, he didn't get accident, but what he got was measles. And then funny thing, measles is also related with heat problem, right? He get a lot of red dots. It's still Pitta, it's still fire. So he's like, that makes sense. Like, not an accident, but it's another Mars type of imbalance, and that is this excess heat in the body. And then thankfully, because we already planned with the health insurance, we don't need to pay $5,000 for the whole hospital bill.
Wow, so many things. So if you're looking at your chart from that medical perspective and you know that Mars is coming in somewhere, so I guess, because I don't want people to be overwhelmed and scared, because I know we give this information and then it's like, oh my, what am I going to do? I need to know it all. So I don't want to cause fear in anybody. But I guess it's that preventative piece, and that's so interesting.
Correct.
And like when we live our lives having this information like you did, okay, there could be some flare up, there could be a number of things, get the insurance. So everything in our lives is about going to that root cause prevention aspect, isn't it? For your case, when you had acne and then you're looking in your chart and knowing, oh, okay, in 5 months, I might have a flare up. I was like, oh, I'm going to a ball, or that's my birthday. Like, what can people do to prevent that? That comes down to really following your Ayurvedic diet and your lifestyle practices. So your body is, you're working with your system.
This is a great question, because like people often ask, so then what I should do? Like, for example, now Mercury retrograde, Jupiter retrograde in few weeks, Mars going retrograde, and people like getting so caught up and overwhelmed and getting like, what should I do about this? In my opinion, don't worry, just let it go. Because like, if you really want to understand the details, it will take years and it might overwhelm you, except if you really want to do it and you want to do it professionally, go learn about that. But in my opinion, what's outside is also inside, right? What's within is without. So in my understanding, in my experience, compared to, let's say, you need to like look in your chart or like what's going on planetary wise, where are they? I will highly recommend to just do spiritual practice, just go within, and then in the end, even if there is heavy karma, if you're able to trust, surrender, and let it go, it will not influence you as much. Because in the end, like everything that happened in the manifestation in the world, whether it's like in the physical imbalance, in our relationship, in work, for example, that's the later stage of the manifestation. But if we do our spiritual practice, that's actually a way to burn the karma before it even got manifested. So like in Vedic astrology, for example, there's a lot of remedies, from like wearing gemstone, you need to fast, charity, like rituals. There's a lot of things. In my opinion, the best one is actually to just do a spiritual practice like seriously and just like comes from the heart, because that's the best remedy to quote unquote burn your karma from the root before it even got manifested. Because if you just like, oh my God, the planet moves all the time. It will be very overwhelming to like keep track of that. And then especially if you don't know like the core of the wisdom yet, it will be very overwhelming because there's so many information out there in the world. Which one is the right one? Which one is wrong? Like different astrology will have different opinions. So that's why it's all back to you. What's outside is also within. You already have the intuition within your heart to know exactly what to do at specific time of the day, in this month, in this year. And then in the end, just trust, surrender, let go, and focus on spiritual practice, because that's how you really burn the karma from the roots.
And I think that's also to highlight that if you're focusing too much on the planet and the specific and what's happening, you're in your mind, right? And that's taking you away from your spiritual practice, away from your intuition. So just coming back into your heart, having an awareness, letting go, being prepared, and being in your heart.
Yeah. So when you, and of course, you still need to do all the thing that you think is good for your health. For example, I need to do body work, I need to exercise, I need to improve my diet. But also in that effort, you also trust and surrender and let go. It's not like, oh, I've done this for like one day, it needs to like better tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like that's not it. Like you do the process, but also trust and surrender and let go of the outcome.
And then, so what does your spiritual look like? Or if somebody that has come to you and doesn't have a spiritual practice or is just starting on this journey, but like life might be throwing them a lot of curveballs or things are changing in their bodies, what would you recommend?
I believe there are so many paths to God, right? Because of, again, like everyone is born unique in their body, in their path. I think there are bazillion ways to connect with the highest self or to that gut element within you and around you. For me, for example, I meditate an hour every day in the morning. Usually before I meditate, I will chant some mantra, I will do breath work, and then I will meditate. And my meditation is just like sit doing nothing and not, like some meditation, like you need to think this thing, you need to visualize this. Mine is just sit with it. Which is actually hard because like the mind usually needs some direction, needs some guidance, because when there is no like rules that say, the mind will wander. But that's exactly what we need to do. We just need to let the mind go, because if you remember in Ayurveda, there's the three gunas, right? The sattva, rajas, tamas. Tamas is about the past, our trauma, depression, something that still clinging to us from past experiences. And then there's rajas, about the future. We want to move on from this pain. We want to get better. We want to do this. We want to do that. And then there's the sattva in the middle. And ultimately, that's the goal of meditation, for us to come back to this pure, balanced, peaceful, joyful nature. But then, of course, we are human, pulled between the past and the future. So that's why by sitting, in my experience, just 1 hour a day, without any agenda or specific thing in mind, what will come is that the mind will wander to the past first. Like, oh my God, I should have done this. Oh my God, that pain is still here. Oh my God, this person still blah, blah, blah. Let that go through. The mind just needs to process that, because usually once that's done about the past, usually the mind moves to the future. Oh, I want this. Oh, after meditation, I should do this. I've been wanting to do this. I haven't done that. And then let that go through, because that's just the process of the mind to finally, in the end, come back to the center, come back to that sattvic, pure state. But of course, it might take time, might take months, might take days, might take years, maybe even in the next lifetime, who knows? But even if it takes that long, that's also okay, because everyone has their own journey. And what we can do is just do our best and let go.
That's really beautiful. And I actually haven't heard somebody highlight that it's okay just sitting with it, and how your mind processes too. And it's about that devotion and commitment. Okay, my mind's going to go backward. That's cool. That's okay. It's going to go forward. Okay, we're just creating space, processing, and it will eventually subside to that void, to that peaceful place. I guess as well, I don't know anyone that can sit for an hour now. I don't really know anyone that can read a book for an hour now. What is your advice for sitting or breaking through those growing pains? Because as you say, it's like we do it for a day, check, okay, done. But it's that commitment. So I guess your advice is, because this is, I think, something that a lot of people are struggling with, is how to commit beyond those growing pains, because that's when we see change.
Yeah, that's a great question, because is that just in the area of meditation, but in everything in life? We know we want to create that change, whether for our health, our relationship, our career. But of course, there is a price to pay. Like, there is nothing free in this world, right? Even though it's like, oh, it's free. No, there is something we need to pay, whether it's our time, our energy, our effort. And so in my experience, if you're ready to commit to something, if you're really, really, really ready, there are three things. I remember one of my mentors say there are three. You can get anything in your life, but there are three steps. First, get clear exactly what you want. Let's say with meditation, I want peace of mind. Okay, be clear exactly what you want. The second step is you need to know the price, because nothing is free in the world. So let's say with that peace of mind, let's say you need to meditate an hour a day. Let's say you need to change your diet. Let's say you need to have better routine. You need to know the price. And then the third step is to pay that price, is to pay that price. There's no way around that. But unfortunately, not only many people doesn't know what they want, they think they know what they want, but maybe they got distracted. Maybe they got influenced by the media, by their friends. So they think they know what they want, but they don't know. Even though I say, oh, I want $1 million. Really? Do you want $1 million? Or do you want freedom? Do you want peace? Like, we don't really get to know exactly what we want. That's already a problem. And then the second thing, many of us doesn't know what's the price. To get to that, what's the step? Many of us doesn't know that. And then even after we know what we want and what we need to pay. And then in the end, not many of us also do that. So I think in regards to like, oh, I know what I want and I'm ready to pay that. I know what I need to pay, but then how to do that, in my opinion, is back to the first one, is to like really envision, have that ideal goal, ideal situation in your mind, and then like keep that in your mind. And that's why I call it like keep the prize in your mind. Just keep visualizing it, because if you lose the end goal, if you lose the vision, that's why dream and hope is such a beautiful thing, it's such an important thing, because that's what motivates us. And if we don't even have the ability to envision, to dream, to hope for the better, then unfortunately we lost the ability to even commit and to endure the hard process. Damn, that's deep.
Yeah, that is deep. Oh, shade. It's that clarity, that commitment, that honoring of your dreams and your beauty. And I think that's so beautiful, and perhaps the importance of having that 1 hour to yourself, because time is not ours. It's taken with our devices, everything. So is your dream yours, or is it something given to you by your friends, media, all these things, and what the astrology is saying? I know, like, we met with astrology one time. And going back to that astrology piece, how you originally started, you mentioned Pluto in Aquarius right now. And we in the West, we speak about, Capricorn, and a lot of what's happening around us in spiritual communities, perhaps, or other communities, is that we entered this new era, and there's a lot of chaos happening around us in the world, what we've seen physically, and politics and wars and the environment. So what does the astronomy from Vedic point say to us about that is different from what we're hearing in Western astrology?
Thank you for asking that, because I think this is a very important topic that we need to cover. First, just a little information before I get into like what's happening in the world right now, is that historically, thousands of years ago, astrology is actually only meant to be for the king in India, because it's a very difficult science, and then they don't have a software that we have right now. So it's even hard to know someone's birth date and birth time. So at that time, that's why it's reserved only for a king, because in a way also, as long as the king is just, the king is doing his dharma, what he meant to do, the people are just gonna follow, right? And we're gonna live happily ever after. But right now, we cannot just rely on government, on what the president, prime minister, or whoever is leading you. We need to be a leader ourselves. And to do that, we need to understand our purpose, why we're here, and where are we heading. And that's why I think it's not a coincidence that with the development of technology, now astrology is something that in a way democratized, right? Something that people can use so that they can take control of their life. They know exactly what they're here to do. In Vedic astrology, for example, unfortunately, I cannot share the screen right now, but if I can, I will share it so you have the visual. So what's going on right now in this start is first, actually, let's start back in 2019, okay? Because that's one of the important beginning of what will come true. So as you know, right, 2019 is the first outbreak, right? And then I actually predicted back in 2017 that there might be some warlike events end of 2019, starting around that time. And what happened was there's a lot of intense planetary conjunction in Sagittarius, in sidereal astrology. What it means, what it's trying to teach us at that time was that we need to, like, there's some crazy thing that might happen, what already happened. But the result of that, we need to shift our belief system. We need to let go of our old belief system that no longer serve us. And then we need to learn new way of things. And that's why during that time, the COVID is actually just a trigger for a lot of other causes, a lot of other interesting dynamic to come to the surface, right? So unfortunately, for some people, even though they stay at home, especially in Indonesia, the lockdown was really bad. They don't use that time to really look within and see, as part of collective, what point of view, what belief system do I need to review and I need to let go. And so if, let's say, in my opinion, if we use that time, I think the world will be better in a way, like easier, faster. We will heal faster. But human is human. Human is doing their thing, right? And then, so let's say some people that go within, and then we still have, unfortunately, certain belief system that doesn't serve us as humanity. So next year is gonna be even more interesting. I don't think it's gonna be like that type of intensity like last time, but there's a similar planetary combination this time is going to happen in Pisces inside astrology. Now, Pisces and Sagittarius has similarities, and that is about knowledge, wisdom, and that's why, as you can see, there's a lot of interest starting from that end of 2019. People are starting to get interest with health, with wellness, with spirituality, which is great, and we need more of that. And that's why I feel like my intuition on what will happen next year with the interesting planetary transit next year is that we will go through as collective a shift in spiritual values, spiritual belief that in a way it will unite us together. And sometimes to have that union, there might be something happening that becomes the catalyst for that union that really need to shake it up within us. So let's say in America, with the recent election, it really bring a lot of things to the surface. Even in Indonesia, same. And I mean, in Europe, in UK as well, right? I mean, that's so much, so many interesting going on in the world, but that's because we're all connected and we all go through the same karma, the Earth's karma that is influenced by the planet, and that is for us to let go of old belief system that no longer serve us. If we still have dynamic that separate us, because Pisces is all about union, connection. No matter how different you are on the surface, everything is connected. And that's something that will be the main lesson next year. And of course, for some people who want to still cling to the old way of doing and thinking, that will be hard. And as you can see, a lot of people wants to change, but then people that doesn't want to change even become even more rigid in their doing. So we will see how it will plan out. But at least you and me, we're doing good. Hopefully.
Oh. And then, so also Pisces, is it still a water sign in Vedic astrology? The sign still represents the element, is that right?
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So if it is Pisces, do you think that there might be a lot of like water things happening? Or it's interesting as well that we're seeing a lot of research into the benefits of like what is the makeup of water and what is the elements and plasma and thing. Like I'm seeing a lot of new revelations in the purpose of water, and also that our water is contaminated. So there seems to be an interest in water. So I wonder, there seems to be no coincidence there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about that, but that's actually makes sense. That so makes sense. And also next year in May, Rahu, the north node of the moon, will enter Aquarius. It goes backward, right? Its movement. So it goes to Aquarius. And Aquarius is all about science, advancement, invention. And Rahu is all about desire. So right now, from end of last year until May next year, Rahu is still in Pisces. This is where collectively we have this deep curiosity about spirituality, foreign specifically foreign spiritual practices, right? But next year, Rahu will move to Aquarius, so people are more interested to explore like science. Like there will be more science invention, in my opinion. Like, I mean, right now we've already seen a lot of growth and development in AI, Web3, for example, in blockchains like this, and it's gonna be even more next year. And that's interesting, when I saw the similar transit last time when it happened, it was around 1993. And at that time, that's when the first browser, is called Mosaic, like birthed into this world. And that's basically changed how we use internet. So anything that happened of specifically scientific and like technology development around this time, it will stay forever. So those who doesn't like AI, unfortunately, it will stay. And with all that changes, we cannot control outside of us. We cannot control how the planet behave or how the world, how government, behave or change or make decision. But at least we can control ourselves, what we can eat, what we can do in our routine to maintain that changes. Because, as human, right, we want, like the primal instinct, we want something to be secure. We want things to exactly the same thing, because if there's anything changing, right, that might trigger the survival instinct. But unfortunately, the only certain things in life is uncertainty, right? So that's why, like, that's the only thing we can do. We know, like, this year is already a lot of change, but next year there's gotta be even more. Like, there's a lot of planet moving. Saturn is moving after 2 years. Rahu and Ketu moving south and north node of the moon moving. Jupiter is gonna move out as well. So there's a lot of shift next year, and we need to really focus on like maintaining ourselves to manage with the changes that is bound to happen.
And when you mentioned the North Node and South Node are changing, that's quite humongous.
Oh yeah,
Like
totally.
globally, like physically, like Earth, a lot of maybe natural disasters type thing.
Yeah,
Like
and then in Indonesia, actually, you mentioned about water. In Indonesia, there's been a lot in the news for months now, something called a mega trust earthquake. But of course, with that, because Indonesia, we have a lot of 70% of Indonesia is water, so they can also be a massive tsunami. So yeah, there is gonna be a lot of change.
So yeah, I guess again, no fear. We don't
No, exactly.
You don't influence fear, but I think, as you say, it's just building yourself so much, being aware that life now, as we know it, is about change, transformation. We're going through a new cycle that maybe we've never been in our lifetime or lifetimes previously. It was different. They had to face different things. But now it's all about building your community. And how lucky I'm sitting in my living room in London, and you're sitting in your home in Indonesia right now. I'm speaking about the same thing.
I know, exactly, right? This is the age where we need to have the understanding within ourselves. We need to have the awareness. We need to all be awakened in a way, so that we can be in alignment with the changes that is happening on the earth. Because if not, then it's not going to grow. It's not going to grow. Or Earth's going to grow, but we're going to stay behind, which is unfortunate.
That's amazing. And then just, sorry, you're tickling my, I could speak to you for forever, hours. You're going to, because I look at things through the Western lens. So it's so wonderful to speak to you, and it certainly resonates. We talk about here in Western astrology that we're going into Aquarius for 20 years. So the opposite of that in Vedic, is it, so sidereal, we're going into Leo for 20 years? Is that correct or incorrect? No? Are you?
One in Aquarius, you mean Pluto?
Pluto in Aquarius for 20 years.
Got it.
Here is
So
what it is.
In Western, right? It just entered Aquarius in 19th November, right? This month. It's gonna stay for 20 years. Now, disclaimer first, even though astronomically is different, it doesn't mean that the whole thing that Western astrology is saying is wrong. No. It's like, this is something that people are like, oh my God, does that mean everything I learned about Western astrology is wrong? No, okay? It's just a matter of perspective, used for a different purpose. Now, before I answer that, because I need to explain this first so that people are like, oh, this is wrong with Capricorn. That means like another 20 years of hell. Like, no. No, okay, because first, like, your chart in Western and in Vedic will be very different, most likely. The planet will shift, the houses will shift. And so these changes, like, oh my God, this is Aquarius and the Capricorn, it might not affect you differently, okay? Because your chart will most likely be different as well. The difference is because Western astrology sees the movement of the planet based on the season. So for example, Aries season always start in spring. But in Vedic astrology, it's not always start in spring, because that depends. Where is the sun at that time in the sky? So it doesn't fixate to the season. But with Western astrology, it's good on assessing our psychology and our ego. Because like the reason why in Western astrology the planet doesn't move even after 2,000 years is because if we see as if the Earth is the center of the universe, the planet doesn't change. The stars doesn't change. It stay exactly the same at the same date, the change of the season. But if we see that the Earth is the center of the universe, which is the fact, then every 72 years, the movement of the Earth, like the Earth itself is tilted, is like shifted, and then it changed the position of the Earth and the planets around it. Okay, so it used for different purpose. Don't worry, just because I'm also a Capricorn, I'm like, oh my God, like 20 more years of hell. No, okay. And concern in Vedic exchange. Now, the second thing, what it really represents is seeing the bigger picture. Like, for example, in Western, the Pluto is now in Aquarius. In my understanding, what does that represent is it will bring transformation in the society, in how we connect with others. Aquarius is all about creating social change. And that's what we've been seeing, right? And that's the truth as well, right? It's not like it's not happening. It is happening because that's how our ego, our psychology perceive that. In the higher perspective, again, in the more spiritual perspective, what is happening? And that's how we need to see it from the sidereal astrology. And that's from the Pluto position in Capricorn, which is interesting because Pluto entered Capricorn in March 2020. That's when the lockdown starting around the globe. But what does that look like? Like what does that mean? How we interpret that in the more spiritual aspect? And that is changes in the government system. And that's why we see around the world, right? The government really, in my opinion, no offense, government, but this is my personal opinion, is that they try to control the masses. They try to control the society through forcing you cannot travel, you cannot do this. There's a lot of control. We see that the government is trying to latch onto their power as much as they can because from the sidereal perspective, in the higher point of view, what's going in the world is like currently we are going through 20-year cycle that starts in 2020 of transformation in the government. But from our vantage point, because now in Western, Pluto is in Aquarius, what does that mean is actually as a human, as a collective, we're going through changes in how we relate with each other, with the technology, let's say. We more open to speak about things compared to in the past, like, oh, we shouldn't talk about this, oh, we shouldn't talk about that. Now there's more open communication so that we can bridge the difference because that's what Aquarius is all about. So I hope that clears that, okay? Don't hate me just because I'm saying what's astronomically correct because that doesn't mean you're going through another 20 years of hell, okay?
Thank you so much for that. I think they do dovetail with each other too, and this is still the same energy and the same things happening, and it is just really instead of top-down power, it's to rise, isn't it? And it's collaboration, leading from your heart. And then I think, as you mentioned, AI is becoming popular. We have seen it happen, and it will continue to rise. But also, it's something not to be fearful of. It's to create a relationship with it and train it to be like your teammates. Into the things that you know and realize. I guess just one last thing too is, are you noticing? I don't know. I wish I could speak to you for hours more.
Same, come to Bali.
What health challenges are you noticing at this time, or what are you helping people with or want to help people with? Again, I'm so sorry I asked you 3 questions in one. You can probably tell my sign from that.
Okay, so I think with the theme of like collective transformation that we're all going through right now, what I often see in people is whether on the surface it looks like digestive problem, skin problem, nervous system imbalance, or back pain or scoliosis, for example. I notice there is a recurring theme of going through change. And I think it's so normal. It is understandable because that's what we are going through collectively. And like I said earlier, the only thing that we can do is take care of ourselves because we cannot control externally. So that's why what I highly recommend is everything that is in your power to maintain your health. Have a grounding routine, have a grounding diet because you cannot have stability from social media, so the information out there. But at least you can create warmth, love, and stability from your daily routine, from your diet, from loving relationship. And even if you don't have a loving relationship in your life, you can start that with yourself. So that's how I want to end this. And like what I want to leave people is like, in the end, we have the power within ourselves. Yes, the planet say this thing, but in the end, we actually the one who have control to direct and to channel how that manifested and how to process that as well. So that's for me.
It's that trust element. And as you say and you speak about, it's merging the sacred with the beauty. I love how you speak about that too. Oh, that's so beautiful, Zia. I have had the most incredible, joyful chat with you and listening to your work and your passion and your journey and how you're creating lights and seeds and a ripple effect from your tiny corner in the Pacific Ocean. You're in the Pacific Ocean, aren't you? I'm so sorry, my geography. I am from Mississippi. So
between Pacific and Indian. Yeah.
The Pacific and Indian. Oh, of course. Yeah.
I mean, there's the Indian here on the south. So yeah.
On the other one. Oh, wow. Okay, so where can people find you?
India or India? That one. I thought I had to double check.
So
I don't know the word in English, but I know the word in Indonesian, which is the ocean, Hindia. So I don't know what's in English. But anyway, I'm not an expert in geography.
So do you do individual Vedic astrology, natal charts? And I wonder, would it be helpful to do have a consultation, like an annual one, to kind of have a plan of what's happening for you over the year when you do your Vedic astrology?
Totally can. People can do I do 1 year, for example, prediction so that they can prepare. Or if they want to specific situation of their life, I want to know about my relationship because this is the one that really bugging me. I can just focus on that as well to help people see the clarity on that area.
Amazing. Well, I think I might definitely give you a buzz. And then courses and all of your workshops there and consultations there on your website and for meeting.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
At least it's still in Indonesian, but I will have the English online courses very soon. And maybe I'll invite you to be a guest teacher.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yes, please. The world needs your medicine from your perspective as well. Thank you.